Commander Lee Taman stared at the dark screen in front of him. The silence from Research Station Alpha 7 had lasted 3 days now. 3 days without any word from the two most important scientists humanity had. "Sir, we are 2 hours away from the station," said Park Ji-hoon from the pilot seat. His young face looked worried. Still no signals from anyone there. Taman nodded slowly. He had commanded rescue missions before, but this one felt different. The Kim sisters were not just any scientists. Dr. Kim Na-young and Dr. Kim Soo-young were working on something that could change everything in the war against the Vorthons. "Check our weapons again," Taman told his crew. "If the station went dark, there might be trouble waiting for us." Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his control panel. "All systems are working fine, Commander. But I have to say, this sector of space makes me nervous. We are very close to Vorthon territory." Taman understood his fear. The Vorthons were not like humans. They were tall, with scales instead of skin, and they thought in ways that humans found hard to understand. They had been at war with humanity for 15 years now. The aliens were smart and cruel, and they never made mistakes in battle. "Tell me about the Kim sisters again," Taman said to his intelligence officer, Lieutenant Bae Ji-won. Ji-won opened her datapad. Dr. Kim Na-young is 32 years old. She studies quantum physics and works with communication systems. Her research could let human ships talk to each other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. And the younger sister? Dr. Kim Soo-young is 28. She works on defense technology. Her theories about energy shields could protect our colonies from Vorthon attacks. The two sisters work together on most projects. Taman thought about this information. If the Vorthons had captured the sisters, they would try to learn everything about their research. That could not happen. "Sir, we can see the station now," Park Ji-hoon announced. On the main screen, Research Station Alpha 7 came into view. It looked like a large metal ring spinning slowly in space. But something was wrong. The lights that should be blinking were not working. The station looked dead. "Are there any life signs?" Taman asked. Choi Min-ho checked his sensors. "I can detect some humans inside the station, but the readings are strange. It looks like they are in the lower sections." "Any ships around the station?" "No, sir, but there are strange energy readings. Something was here recently." Taman made his decision. "We go in. Park, take us to docking bay 3. Everyone else, prepare for boarding. Full weapons and armor." The UES Determination moved slowly toward the station. As they got closer, Taman could see damage on the station's outer walls. Burn marks showed where weapon fire had hit the metal. "Vorthon plasma weapons," Min-ho said quietly. "I can tell from the pattern of the burns." Inside the docking bay, the rescue team put on their combat gear. Besides Taman, there were 6 other crew members. All of them had fought Vorthons before and knew how dangerous they could be. "Remember," Taman told them, "our job is to find the Kim sisters and get them out safely. If we meet any Vorthons, we fight only as much as we need to escape." The team entered the station through the docking bay. The air inside was cold and full of a strange smell. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. "This way to the research labs," Ji-won said, checking her map. They moved through the empty corridors. Their boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Every room they passed was empty. Computers were broken and papers were scattered everywhere. "Sir, I am getting life signs from Section C," Min-ho reported. 2 humans, definitely alive." "That must be them," Taman said. "How far?" 5 minutes if we go through the main corridor." But as they reached the junction between corridors, Choi Min-ho held up his hand. "Wait, I'm detecting movement ahead. Something big." Taman signaled his team to take cover. Around the corner came a tall figure with dark green scales and glowing yellow eyes. A Vorthon warrior, carrying a weapon that could kill a human with 1 shot. The alien had not seen them yet. It was moving slowly, like it was patrolling the area. "1 target," Taman whispered to his team. "Bae, you go left. Park, go right. On my signal." But before they could attack, more Vorthons appeared. 3, then 5, then 8 of them. Too many for a small rescue team to fight. New plan, Taman said quietly. We find another way to the research section. They moved backward through the station, looking for a different path. Jiwan found service tunnels that could take them to where the life signs were coming from. These tunnels are small, she said. The Vorthons are too big to follow us. The team crawled through the narrow spaces above the station's main corridors. Below them, they could hear Vorthon voices speaking in their strange language. The aliens sounded organized, like they were searching for something specific. Finally, they reached Section C. Through a grating in the tunnel, Taman could see into a laboratory below. Two women in white coats were sitting on the floor with their hands tied behind their backs. The Kim sisters. Can we get down there? Taman asked. Yes, but we will have to move fast, Minho replied. There are Vorthons in the next room. Taman opened the grating carefully. He dropped down into the lab first, then helped his team follow. The Kim sisters looked up with hope in their eyes. Are you Dr. Kim Na-young and Dr. Kim Soo-young? Taman asked as he cut their ropes. Yes, the older woman said. I am Na-young. Thank you for coming for us. We need to leave right now, Taman said. How many Vorthons are on this station? At least 20, Soo-young answered. They came 2 days ago. They killed most of the station crew but kept us alive. They kept asking about our research. Did you tell them anything? Nothing important, Na-young said, but they took our computers and all our research files. This was bad news. If the Vorthons had the research data, they would try to understand human technology. But Taman had to focus on getting everyone out safely. Follow us and stay quiet, he told the sisters. We are going back through the service tunnels. But as they prepared to climb back into the tunnel, alarms started ringing throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and a Vorthon voice spoke over the communication system. The humans are here, Soo-young translated. They know about the rescue mission. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors outside the lab. The Vorthons were coming. Change of plans, Taman said. We fight our way to the docking bay. Everyone stay together. The laboratory door exploded open. 3 Vorthon warriors entered, their weapons ready to fire. Taman's team opened fire first, and the room filled with the bright light of energy weapons. One of the aliens fell, but the other 2 took cover and returned fire. The air became hot and dangerous. Move toward the back exit, Taman shouted over the noise of battle. I will cover you. His team and the 2 sisters ran toward the rear door of the laboratory, but more Vorthons were waiting there too. They were trapped. Commander, Park Ji-hoon called from his position near the front door. There are too many of them. We cannot fight through all of them. Taman realized they had only one choice. Someone had to stay behind to give the others time to escape. As the team leader, that someone had to be him. Listen carefully, he told his crew. Take the sisters and get back to the ship. I will hold the Vorthons here and give you time to escape. Sir, we cannot leave you, Minho protested. That is an order, Taman said firmly. The sisters and their research are more important than one commander. Get them back to human space. Before his team could argue more, Taman activated his emergency beacon. The small device would send all the information they had gathered about Vorthon positions back to human command. At least their mission would not be completely lost. Go now, he ordered. Use the service tunnels and get to the ship. His team reluctantly followed his orders. Taman watched them disappear into the tunnel with the 2 sisters. Then he turned back to face the Vorthons alone. The aliens entered the room slowly, their weapons pointed at him. But instead of shooting, they seemed to want to capture him alive. The largest Vorthon stepped forward and spoke in accented human language. You are the commander of these humans. You will come with us. Taman dropped his weapon. He had no choice now. But at least the sisters were safe, and the research data was on its way back to human forces. His sacrifice had meaning. As the Vorthons put restraints on his wrists, Taman heard the sound of his ship leaving the station. Park Ji-hoon had gotten everyone out safely. The mission was a success even if it cost him his freedom. The Vorthons led him away from the laboratory toward their transport ship. He was now their prisoner, but he had saved 2 of humanity's most important scientists. It was a trade he could live with. What he did not know was that the Vorthons had plans for him too. They were interested in how human commanders made decisions, especially decisions about sacrifice and loyalty. Commander Lee Taman was about to become part of a much larger and more dangerous experiment. The Vorthon prison ship felt like a tomb made of metal. Commander Lee Taman sat in his small cell, staring at the gray walls. 3 days had passed since his capture at Research Station Alpha 7. 3 days of cold silence and strange alien food. But he was not alone on this ship. Through the thin walls, he could hear human voices. The Vorthons had captured more people than just him. Yesterday he had seen them bringing 2 familiar faces down the corridor. His heart had sunk when he recognized Dr. Kim Na-young and Dr. Kim Soo-young. His sacrifice had been for nothing. The sisters were prisoners too. The cell door opened with a harsh metal sound. A Vorthon guard motioned for Taman to come out. The alien was tall and covered in dark green scales. Its yellow eyes showed no emotion. "Move," the guard said in broken human language. Taman was led down a long corridor lined with cells. Through the small windows in each door he could see human prisoners. Some looked scared, others looked angry. All of them looked tired. The guard stopped at a larger room and pushed Taman inside. It was some kind of common area with metal tables and benches. Several humans were already there, including the Kim sisters. "Commander Taman," Na-young said when she saw him. Her voice was sad. "I hoped you had escaped." "I hoped the same about both of you," Taman replied, sitting down beside them. "What happened?" "I thought my team got you out safely." Soo-young, the younger sister, spoke quietly. "They did get us out. But the Vorthons were waiting near your ship. They captured us before we could leave the station. And my crew." "They escaped," Na-young said. "The Vorthons only wanted us. They let the others go." Taman felt a small relief. At least Park Ji-hoon and the others were safe. But looking at the sisters now, he felt responsible for their capture. "Let me introduce you to the others," Na-young said, pointing to the other humans in the room. A tough-looking woman with short hair came over to them. "Sergeant Yoon Hana, formerly of the 3rd Marine Division," she said. "Been here 4 months now." Next was a thin man with gentle eyes. Bae Ji-won, engineer from the colony ship New Seoul. "The Vorthons captured my ship 6 months ago. There were 12 humans in total on the prison ship. Each had been captured from different places and at different times. But they all had one thing in common. The Vorthons had kept them alive for a reason." "Why do they keep us?" Taman asked. "Vorthons usually kill prisoners or trade them back to human space." Sergeant Hana sat down across from him. "They study us. Every day they bring 1 or 2 of us to their laboratory rooms. They ask questions, run tests, watch how we react to things." "What kind of tests?" "Strange ones," Ji-won the engineer said. "They show us pictures and ask us to choose between them. They present problems and want to know how we would solve them. They seem very interested in how we make decisions." Soo-young looked worried. "What kind of decisions?" "Hard ones," Hana replied. "Like choosing who gets food when there is not enough for everyone. Or deciding whether to save 1 person or save 5 people. They always want to know why we choose what we choose." This information made Taman think. The Vorthons were not just keeping prisoners for information about human military plans. They were trying to understand something deeper about human nature. Over the next few days, Taman learned more about life on the prison ship. The aliens gave them enough food to stay alive, but not enough to feel full. The cells were cold at night and too warm during the day. But the worst part was the uncertainty. Nobody knew where they were going or what would happen to them. Taman also learned more about the Kim sisters during this time. Despite being prisoners, they took care of each other and the other humans. Na-young shared her food with anyone who looked hungry. So-young used her knowledge of technology to help fix small problems around the common room. "You two are very close," Taman observed one day as he watched Soo-young help her older sister with a small injury. "We have only each other," Na-young explained. "Our parents died when we were young. So-young and I have been together through everything." "Tell me about your research," Taman said. "If we ever get out of here, I need to understand what the Vorthons might have learned from your files." The sisters looked at each other. Then Na-young began to explain. "I work on quantum communication systems. The idea is that particles can be connected across any distance instantly. If we can use this for military communication, human ships could coordinate perfectly in battle. And I work on energy shields. Su-young added. My research focuses on protecting things instead of attacking them. If my theories are correct, we could build shields around entire colonies. But here is the important thing, Na-young said. Our research works together. My communication system needs her shield technology to protect the quantum particles. Her shields need my communication system to coordinate their power sources. Neither of us can complete the project alone. Su-young finished. We need each other. This made Taemin understand why the Vorthons had wanted both sisters alive. Their combined knowledge was worth much more than either sister alone. On the 5th day, something changed. A different Vorthon came to the common room. This one was smaller than the guards and wore different clothing. It carried a device that translated its words into human language. I am Research Leader Vexthan, the alien said through the device. I have been studying your species for 2 years now. You humans are very interesting. The prisoner said nothing. They had learned that it was better to stay quiet when the Vorthons wanted to talk. You make decisions that make no sense, Vexthan continued. You choose paths that hurt your chances of survival. You value individuals more than the group. This is not logical. Maybe logic is not everything, Sergeant Hannah said boldly. Vexthan turned its attention to her. Explain this. Some things are more important than just staying alive, Hannah replied. Like protecting people we care about. Like doing what is right even when it costs us. This is what we want to understand, Vexthan said. Your species fights wars in ways that should not work. You make tactical choices that seem wrong, but somehow you win battles that you should lose. The alien moved closer to the Kim sisters. These two are perfect examples. They could have escaped separately. Each could have saved herself. Instead, they stayed together and both were captured. This makes no logical sense. It makes perfect sense to us, Na-young said quietly. Why? Su-young answered for both of them. Because we are sisters. We would rather be prisoners together than be free apart. Vexthan made a sound that might have been alien laughter. Yes, this is exactly the kind of irrationality we are studying. Soon we will reach our destination. There, we will conduct more detailed experiments on human decision-making. The alien left the room, but its words stayed with the prisoners. They were being taken somewhere for more serious testing. That night, in the cold darkness of the cells, Taemin lay awake thinking. The Vorthons were trying to understand human emotions and choices. They wanted to learn how humans made decisions under pressure. This could only mean one thing. They were planning to use that knowledge against humanity in the war. Through the walls, he could hear the Kim sisters talking quietly to each other. Even as prisoners, they were trying to take care of each other. Their bond was strong, perhaps stronger than the Vorthons could understand. But Taemin worried about what tests the aliens had planned for them. If Vexthan wanted to study human decision-making, the experiments would probably involve forcing the prisoners to make terrible choices. Choices between survival and morality. Choices between self and others. Choices between people they cared about. As the prison ship flew through the darkness of space, Taemin tried to prepare himself for whatever was coming. But deep in his heart, he feared that no amount of preparation would be enough for what the Vorthons had planned. The worst part was knowing that the aliens were right about one thing. Humans did make choices that seemed illogical. They did value individuals over strategic advantage. But maybe, Taemin thought as he finally fell asleep, that was exactly what made humans strong. The prison ship finally stopped moving after 7 days of travel through space. Commander Lee Taemin felt the vibration in the metal floor change as they landed on something solid. Through the small window in his cell, he could see strange purple light filtering in from outside. We have arrived at our destination, announced a Vorthon voice through the ship's communication system. Within an hour, guards came to collect all the human prisoners. Taemin was reunited with the Kim sisters and the other captives in the ship's cargo bay. Outside the open doors, he could see the most alien world he had ever imagined. The sky was deep purple with 3 small moons hanging in it. Tall buildings made of what looked like crystal grew from the ground like enormous trees. Each building caught the light from the moons and threw it back in rainbow colors. Welcome to Vorthak Prime, said research leader Vexthan as he approached the group of prisoners. This is the homeworld of our species. You will be staying here for some time. The prisoners were loaded into a large transport vehicle. As they moved through the alien city, Taemin studied everything he could see. The streets were wide and smooth. made from the same crystal material as the buildings. Vortans moved along the streets in organized groups, never seeming to hurry or show excitement. "Everything looks so orderly," whispered Dr. Kim Soo-young to her sister. "There is no chaos anywhere." "It is like they have removed all emotion from their society," Na-young replied quietly. The transport stopped at a large complex that looked part laboratory and part prison. The building was shaped like a star with 5 points, each point reaching high into the purple sky. Guards escorted the humans through corridors filled with strange equipment and monitoring devices. Taemin was placed in a new cell, larger than the one on the ship, but still clearly designed for imprisonment. The walls were made of a material that looked like glass but felt warm to the touch. Through it, he could see other cells containing more humans. "Commander Taemin," called a voice from the cell next to his. An older man with gray hair pressed his face to the transparent wall. "I am Admiral Song Minwoo. I have been here for 2 years. "Admiral Song," Taemin said with surprise. "Command reported you as killed in action. The Vorthans prefer that humans think their prisoners are dead. It makes their families stop looking for them." Song's voice was tired but strong. "How many humans do they have now?" "I count at least 30 in the cells I can see," Taemin replied. "There are more in other sections. Maybe 60 humans total. All of us were captured for specific reasons." Over the next few days, Taemin learned about life in the Vorthan research facility. The aliens had built it specifically to study human behavior. Each day, they would take prisoners to different rooms for tests and observations. Dr. Hwang Isul, a psychologist who had been captured 8 months earlier, explained what she had learned about their captors. "The Vorthans think very differently from humans," she said during one of the times when prisoners were allowed to gather in a common area. "They make all decisions based on what is best for their entire species. Individual Vorthans do not matter to them. That explains why they find our choices confusing," said Sergeant Yoon Hana. "We often choose to help individuals even when it might hurt the larger group." "Exactly. And that is why they are losing the war against us. They cannot predict what humans will do in battle because human commanders make decisions based on saving lives, not just winning." Taemin found this information very interesting. If the Vorthans could learn to predict human decision-making, they would have a huge advantage in the war. The tests began for Taemin on his 4th day at the facility. Research leader Vexthan personally escorted him to a white room filled with screens and recording devices. "We will start with simple questions," Vexthan said through his translation device. "You are the commander of a ship. You can save 10 soldiers or save 100 civilians. Which do you choose?" "The civilians," Taemin answered without hesitation. "Why? The soldiers have more military value. They can fight and protect many more people. Because protecting innocent people is what soldiers are supposed to do." Vexthan made notes on his device. "Illogical. The soldiers could protect thousands of civilians in future battles. But you choose immediate emotional satisfaction over long-term strategic benefit." The questions became more complex over several sessions. Each scenario forced Taemin to choose between different types of people or different outcomes. The Vorthans carefully recorded all his answers and the reasons behind them, but the real problems began when Dr. Kim Soo-young became sick. The alien atmosphere processing systems produced air that humans could breathe, but it contained particles that slowly damaged human lungs. Most prisoners adapted after a few weeks, but Soo-young's body reacted badly to the alien environment. She began coughing and had trouble breathing. Dr. Hwang, using her limited medical knowledge, said that Soo-young needed treatment or her condition would get worse quickly. When Na-young asked the Vorthans for medical help, they agreed to provide basic treatment, but Vexthan made it clear that the treatment was limited. "We can keep her alive," he told Na-young during one of her own testing sessions, "but without proper medicine, her condition will continue to deteriorate. Eventually she will die. What do you want in exchange for proper treatment?" Na-young asked, though she already suspected the answer. "Complete your research. Give us the plans for your quantum communication system. In exchange, we will cure your sister completely." Na-young was torn. Her research could help humanity win the war, but it could also save human lives if the Vorthans used it against them. However, without it, her sister would die. "I need time to think," she said. "Of course, but do not take too long. Your sister's condition grows worse each day." That night, Taemin could hear the sisters talking through the walls of their cells. Soo-young's coughing had become more frequent and painful. Na-young was crying, something the other prisoners had never heard before. I cannot lose her, Na-young whispered to Dr. Huang the next day. She is all the family I have left. I understand, Huang replied. But think about what giving them your research might cost. How many human lives could be lost if the Vorthons use your communication technology against us? I know, but she is my sister. How can I let her die to save people I do not even know? This was exactly the kind of moral dilemma that fascinated the Vorthons. They were watching Na-young struggle between her love for her sister and her duty to humanity. Admiral Song tried to offer perspective. In war, we sometimes have to make choices that hurt people we care about. It is the hardest part of command. You do not understand, Na-young said with tears in her eyes. Su-young and I have been together our whole lives. When our parents died, we only had each other. She is not just my sister. She is my best friend, my research partner, my family. Meanwhile, Vexton continued his experiments on all the prisoners. He was particularly interested in the relationship between the sisters and how it affected their decision-making. Humans form these emotional bonds that override logical thinking, he explained. To other Vorthon researchers, during a meeting that the prisoners could overhear, the older sister will likely sacrifice strategic advantage to save the younger one. This pattern repeats throughout human military history. And if she does, asked another Vorthon, then we will understand one more way that human emotions make them predictable. We can use this knowledge in our war planning. As Su-young's condition worsened, the pressure on Na-young increased. The other prisoners tried to support her, but everyone understood the impossible situation she faced. Choose her sister's life and betray humanity, or stay loyal to her species and watch her sister die. The Vorthons waited patiently for her decision, studying every aspect of her emotional struggle. To them, this was the perfect experiment in human irrationality. But what they did not understand was that human bonds were not weaknesses to be exploited. Sometimes they were sources of strength that even the most logical alien minds could not predict. 2 weeks had passed since Dr. Kim Su-young had started getting sicker. Her coughing was now so bad that she could barely speak without pain. Dr. Hwang Isul did everything she could with the limited medicine the Vorthons provided, but everyone could see that Su-young was getting worse. Commander Lee Taemin watched Dr. Kim Na-young during their daily gatherings in the common area. The older sister barely ate and spent most of her time staring at nothing. The stress of watching her sister suffer was breaking her down. I have to do something, Na-young said to Taemin one morning. I cannot just watch her die. I understand how you feel, Taemin replied. But remember that your research could save millions of human lives. If the Vorthons get it, they might win the war. What good is saving millions of strangers if I cannot save the one person who matters most to me? Before Taemin could answer, guards came to take him to another testing session with research leader Vexton. But this time the session was different. Vexton led him to a new room, much larger than the others. In the center was a table with 2 chairs facing each other. The walls were covered with screens showing data about human behavior patterns. Sit down, Commander, Vexton said. Today we will discuss the real purpose of our research. Taemin sat down, keeping his face calm even though he felt nervous about what was coming. For 2 years, we have been studying human prisoners, Vexton began. We have learned many things about how your species makes decisions. But we still do not understand the most important question, which is, how do humans choose when all choices lead to pain? Your species consistently makes decisions that seem to ignore logic and focus on emotion. This makes your military tactics unpredictable. Vexton activated one of the screens. It showed battle recordings from the war between humans and Vorthons. Look at this battle near the Centauri system, Vexton said. Human forces were losing badly. The logical choice was to retreat and save most of their ships. Instead, the human commander chose to attack our flagship, even though it meant losing more ships. Why? Taemin studied the recording. The flagship was threatening a colony ship full of civilians. The commander chose to protect them. Yes, exactly. He sacrificed military advantage to save individual lives. This decision made no strategic sense, but it worked. Our forces became confused and made mistakes. The humans won a battle they should have lost. Sometimes doing the right thing gives you strength that pure strategy cannot. Vexton made notes on his device. This is what we must understand. Your right thing concept appears to be based on protecting individuals, rather than achieving the best outcome for your species as a whole. The alien moved to another screen showing psychological profiles of all the human prisoners. Which brings us to our main experiment. We have created the perfect test case using Dr. Kim Na-young and her sister. Taemin felt his stomach tighten. What kind of test? Soon, you will be forced to make a choice that will help us understand human decision-making completely. The choice will involve the Kim sisters. What choice? Vex then turned to face him directly. You will choose which sister lives and which sister dies. Only one can survive. You will make this decision and we will study how you choose. The words hit Taemin like a physical blow. You cannot be serious. I'm very serious. Both sisters possess valuable research that could help either side win this war. Dr. Na-young's communication technology could allow perfect coordination of human military forces. Dr. Soo-young's shield technology could protect human colonies from our weapons. Vexton pulled up detailed files on both sisters. But here's the fascinating part. Neither sister can complete her research without the other. Their work is interconnected. However, we only need one of them to continue the research, even if the final result is not perfect. This is insane. I will not choose between innocent people. You will choose, Commander, because the alternative is that both sisters die. If you refuse to make a decision, we will execute both of them and learn nothing. At least this way one lives. Taemin felt sick. The Vorthons had created a situation with no good outcome. Either he condemned one sister to death or he condemned both. How much time do I have to decide? You have until tomorrow morning. 12 hours from now. You will announce your choice in front of all the prisoners. We want to observe how other humans react to your decision. Taemin was taken back to his cell, his mind spinning with the horrible choice ahead of him. Through the walls, he could hear Soo-young coughing again. Her illness was getting much worse. That evening, during their time in the common area, Taemin found himself looking at both sisters differently. How could he possibly choose between them? Na-young was brilliant and had developed most of the theoretical framework for the quantum communication system. Her research could revolutionize military coordination and save countless human lives in future battles. Soo-young was equally smart and had created the defensive technologies that could protect civilian populations. Her work focused on saving lives rather than fighting, which felt more morally clear to Taemin. But beyond their research, they were both good people who cared about each other and helped their fellow prisoners. Neither deserved to die. You look troubled, observed Admiral Song Minwoo during dinner. The Vorthons have given me an impossible choice to make, Taemin replied quietly. Dr. Hwang Isul, who was sitting nearby, leaned closer. What kind of choice? Taemin explained what Vexton had told him. The other prisoners listened in shocked silence. They want to force you to betray your own moral principles, Hwang said. When he finished, this is exactly the kind of decision that they think will reveal human nature. But what can I do? If I refuse to choose, both sisters die. Sergeant Yoon Hana spoke up. Have you considered that there might be another option? Something the Vorthons are not expecting? What do you mean? I mean that every time we do something they do not predict, we gain an advantage. Maybe the key is not to choose between the sisters at all. Admiral Song nodded thoughtfully. She has a point. The Vorthons think in very rigid patterns. They expect you to make a logical decision based on strategic value, or an emotional decision based on personal preference. But what if I make a completely different kind of choice? Taemin asked. Exactly. What if you choose something that breaks their entire experiment? As the evening continued, the prisoners quietly discussed possibilities. They had to be careful because they knew the Vorthons were always watching and listening. Meanwhile, the Kim sisters sat together near the window, holding hands and talking softly. They had not been told about the choice Taemin had to make, but they could sense that something terrible was coming. I am scared, Soo-young whispered to her sister. Not about dying, but about leaving you alone. You are not going to die, Na-young replied firmly. I will not let that happen. But my illness is getting worse. Even if the Vorthons wanted to help, I do not think they can fix the damage to my lungs. Na-young squeezed her sister's hand tighter. Then we will face whatever comes together. We always have. Listening to their conversation, Taemin felt even worse about the decision he had to make. These two women had been through everything together. Separating them would be like tearing apart a single soul. But he also thought about what Admiral Song and Sergeant Hana had said. Maybe there was another way to approach this problem. The Vorthans expected him to think like a human military commander, weighing strategic value against personal feelings. They wanted to study how humans made impossible choices under extreme pressure. What if he refused to play by their rules entirely? As the night grew late and the prisoners were sent back to their cells, Taman lay awake thinking. Somewhere in this facility, other humans had probably faced similar tests. Some had likely broken under the pressure. Others had made choices they would regret forever. But maybe, just maybe, there was a way to turn this experiment against the Vorthans themselves. The key was to do something so unexpected that it would confuse their understanding of human nature instead of clarifying it. By morning, Taman had made his decision. It was not the choice the Vorthans expected, and it might not save anyone. But it was the only choice he could make and still live with himself. The question was whether the other prisoners would understand and support what he was about to do. The morning came too quickly for Commander Lee Taman. Guards arrived at his cell before he felt ready to face what was coming. They escorted him to a large ceremonial chamber he had never seen before. The room was filled with Vorthan observers, including military commanders and research scientists. All of them wanted to witness this experiment in human decision-making. At the center of the room were 3 chairs arranged in a triangle. Research leader Vexton stood waiting with his translation device. "Welcome, Commander. Please sit down. The Kim sisters will join us shortly." Taman took his seat and looked around the room. The Vorthans watched him with their cold yellow eyes, treating him like a specimen in a laboratory. He tried to stay calm despite the sick feeling in his stomach. The chamber doors opened again and guards brought in Dr. Kim Na-young and Dr. Kim Soo-young. Both sisters looked confused and frightened. Soo-young was coughing more than usual and her face was pale from her illness. "Sit down, please," Vexton told the sisters as he pointed to the other 2 chairs. "What is this about?" Na-young asked as she helped her sister sit down. "Commander Taman will explain," Vexton replied. Then he turned to Taman. "Tell them about the choice you must make." Taman looked into the faces of both sisters. These were good people who had already suffered so much. Now he had to tell them something that would break their hearts. "The Vortans have forced me to make an impossible decision," he began slowly. "They say I must choose which one of you lives and which one dies. If I refuse to choose, they will kill both of you." The sisters stared at him in shock. So-young started coughing again and Na-young put her arm around her sister protectively. "No," Na-young said firmly. "We refuse to be part of this sick game. You cannot force someone to make such a choice." "Unfortunately, you have no power to refuse," Vexton said. "This experiment is necessary for our research. We must understand how humans make decisions when all options cause pain." "But why him?" So-young asked weakly between coughs. "Why make Commander Taman choose instead of letting us decide for ourselves?" "Because we want to study how a human military leader weighs strategic value against personal emotion. Each of you has research that could help humanity win this war. We want to see which research he considers more valuable." Taman felt anger rising in his chest. The Vorthans were treating human lives like chess pieces to be moved around for their entertainment. "You have 30 minutes to make your choice," Vex then announced. "Explain to the sisters why you choose one over the other. We want to record your reasoning process." The chamber fell silent except for Soo-young's coughing. Taman looked at both sisters and saw the fear in their eyes. But he also saw something else. They were both more worried about each other than about themselves. "Choose me," Na-young said suddenly. "My research is more developed. Soo-young is younger and has more time to contribute to science." "No," Soo-young replied immediately. "Choose my sister. Her communication system could coordinate military forces and end this war faster. My shields can only protect people defensively." "Stop," Taman said quietly. "Both of you stop trying to sacrifice yourselves." He stood up and walked closer to the sisters. The Vorthan observers leaned forward, eager to see what he would do. "I have something to tell you both," Taman said. "Your sister loves you more than her own life. And you know what? That is exactly what makes humans stronger than Vorthans." He turned to face Vexton and the other aliens. "You want to understand human decision-making? You want to know why humans make choices that seem illogical? I will show you." Taman walked to the center of the chamber where all the Vorthans could see him clearly. "I choose neither sister," he announced. "I choose myself." A confused murmur went through the room. Vexton stepped forward with surprise on his scaled face. "That is not one of the options," the alien said. "You must choose between the 2 sisters." No, I reject your entire premise, Taemin replied loudly. You say I must choose which sister dies. Instead, I volunteer to die in place of both sisters. That makes no strategic sense, Vexton protested. You are a military commander with valuable experience. Your death serves no logical purpose. Exactly, and that is what you will never understand about humans. Sometimes we make choices that have nothing to do with logic or strategy. Sometimes we choose to sacrifice ourselves because it is the right thing to do. The Kim sisters stood up from their chairs. Commander, no, Na-young said with tears in her eyes. You cannot do this. We will not let you die for us, Soo-young added despite her coughing. You do not get to decide, Taemin told them gently. As your commanding officer, I am responsible for your safety. If someone has to die today, it will be me. He turned back to the Vorthans. This is what you wanted to study, right? Human decision-making under impossible circumstances? Well, here it is. A human choosing to give up his own life to save others, even when it provides no strategic advantage. Vexton looked genuinely confused. He spoke quickly with other Vorthan researchers in their own language. This was clearly not what they had expected. Your choice serves no purpose, Vexton finally said. If you die, humanity loses an experienced commander. The sisters are scientists, not military leaders. Keeping them alive and killing you weakens your species. Maybe, Taemin replied, but it is still the right choice. And sometimes doing the right thing matters more than doing the smart thing. The chamber erupted in Vorthan voices as the observers argued among themselves. Their careful experiment had been completely disrupted by an outcome they had not predicted. This is not acceptable, Vexton declared. You must choose between the sisters as instructed. I have made my choice, Taemin said calmly. Kill me and let them both live. But even as he spoke, Taemin was hoping that his unexpected decision would create enough confusion to give him and the sisters a chance. He remembered what Admiral Song had said about doing things the Vorthans did not expect. The confusion in the chamber was growing. Some Vorthans seemed angry that their experiment was ruined. Others seemed fascinated by this display of human irrationality. In the noise and chaos, Taemin caught sight of movement near one of the chamber entrances. Other human prisoners were being brought in, probably to witness his decision. But something looked different about the guards escorting them. As he watched more carefully, Taemin realized that some of the guards were actually prisoners in disguise. Admiral Song had somehow organized an escape attempt timed to coincide with this ceremony. Sergeant Yoon Hana appeared near the back of the chamber, having overpowered a guard and taken his weapon. Dr. Hwang Isul and Engineer Bai Jiwon were with her, along with several other prisoners. Get down, Hana shouted to Taemin and the sisters. The chamber exploded into chaos as the human prisoners attacked their captors. Energy weapons flashed and Vorthans shouted orders in their alien language. Taemin grabbed both sisters and pulled them behind the chairs as weapons fire filled the air above them. Can you move? He asked Soo-young. I can try, she replied, though she was breathing heavily. Stay close to me, he told both sisters. We are getting out of here. As the battle raged around them, Taemin realized that his impossible choice had created exactly the distraction the other prisoners needed. By refusing to play by Vorthan rules, he had turned their own experiment against them. But they were not free yet. The real challenge was escaping from the heavily guarded facility and finding a way off the alien planet. The most important thing, though, was that both sisters were still alive. And as long as they survived, there was still hope for humanity. The battle in the ceremonial chamber was fierce but brief. Sergeant Yoon Hana and the other escaped prisoners had caught the Vorthans completely by surprise. Within minutes, they had control of the room. We need to move fast, Admiral Song Minwoo shouted over the noise. More guards will come soon. Commander Lee Taemin helped both Kim sisters to their feet. Soo-young was struggling to breathe after all the excitement, but her eyes showed determination to keep going. How did you organize this? Taemin asked Admiral Song as they moved toward the chamber exit. Dr. Hwang figured out the guard rotation schedules, Song replied. When they brought us to watch your decision, we were ready. Some prisoners created a distraction in another section while we overpowered guards here. Dr. Hwang Isol appeared beside them, carrying a stolen Vorthan weapon. The facility's main computer system is 2 levels down from here. If we can reach it, Dr. Soo-young might be able to send our research data back to human space. I can try, Soo-young said between coughs. But we need to get there quickly. My condition is getting worse. The group of escaped prisoners moved through the facility's corridors as fast as possible. Behind them, they could hear Vorthan voices and the sound of more guards arriving. This way, called Engineer Beiji-1, who had studied the facility's layout during his months of imprisonment. The computer center is through here. They reached a large room filled with alien technology. Screens covered the walls showing data streams in Vorthan writing. In the center stood a massive computer core that pulsed with blue light. "Can you access this system?" Taemin asked Dr. Nayung. "Maybe," she replied, studying the alien controls. "The Vorthans use quantum processing similar to my research. I might be able to find a way in." While Nayung worked on the computer, Sergeant Hana and the other former Marines set up defensive positions at the room's entrances. They could hear Vorthan forces searching for them throughout the facility. "I am in," Nayung announced after several tense minutes. "I can access their communication systems. Can you send data to human space?" Admiral Song asked. "Yes, but I need both research projects to make it work. My communication system and Soo-Young's shield technology work together." Soo-Young moved to help her sister despite her illness. "The quantum tunneling effect from my shields can protect the data stream from interference," she explained. As the sisters worked together at the alien computer, Taemin watched the entrances nervously. The sounds of searching Vorthans were getting closer. "How much longer do you need?" he asked. "Just a few more minutes," Nayung replied. "We are combining both research projects into a single data burst that will transmit instantly to human military command." But before they could finish, Vorthan guards found their location. Energy weapons fired through the doorway, forcing the human prisoners to take cover. "We cannot hold them off much longer," Hana shouted from her position. Research leader Vexthan appeared in the doorway, protected by several armed guards. "Surrender now," he called out in his translated voice. "You cannot escape from this planet." "Keep working," Taemin told the sisters. Then he stood up where Vexthan could see him. "You wanted to understand human decision-making," Taemin shouted to the alien. "Well, here is another lesson for you. Humans do not give up even when the situation looks hopeless." "Your escape attempt is meaningless," Vexthan replied. "Even if you steal one of our ships, you will never reach human territory. Our fleet will stop you." "Maybe," Taemin said, "but at least we will die fighting for freedom, instead of living as your experimental subjects." Dr. Soo-Young suddenly began coughing violently. The stress of the escape and her worsening illness had pushed her body beyond its limits. She collapsed beside the computer console. "Soo-Young!" Nayung cried, dropping to her knees beside her sister. "I am okay," Soo-Young whispered weakly. "Keep working. Upload the data. I cannot do it without you. The shield equations are too complex for me to handle alone." Soo-Young struggled to sit up. With her sister's help, she reached for the computer controls one more time. "Together," she said. "We finish this together." Both sisters worked frantically to complete the data upload while energy weapons continued firing around them. Their combined research represented years of work that could change the outcome of the war. "Data upload is starting," Nayung announced. 30 seconds until transmission." The Vorthan guards pressed their attack, trying to reach the computer console. Several prisoners were wounded defending the sisters, but they held their positions. 20 seconds, Nayung called out. Vexthan shouted orders in his own language. More guards appeared, and the defensive line began to weaken. 10 seconds. Dr. Soo-Young grabbed her sister's hand. "Whatever happens, I want you to know that working with you has been the best part of my life." "Do not talk like that," Nayung replied with tears in her eyes. "We are both getting out of here. 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, transmission complete." At the moment the data burst launched toward human space, Soo-Young triggered something else she had secretly programmed into the Vorthan computer system. A massive overload spread through the facility's power grid, destroying years of research data the aliens had collected about human behavior. The lights went out, and emergency systems began wailing throughout the complex. "Now," Admiral Song shouted, "everyone to the transport bay." In the darkness and confusion, the escaped prisoners fought their way through corridors filled with panicking Vorthans. Dr. Soo-Young could barely walk, supported by her sister and Commander Taemin. They reached the facility's transport bay where several Vorthan ships were docked. Engineer Beiji-1 quickly identified a small but fast vessel that could carry all the prisoners. "I can fly this," announced Park Ji-hoon. Taemin was amazed to see his former pilot among the prisoners. "Park, how did you get here?" I volunteered for a rescue mission to find you, sir. Got captured 2 days ago. As the prisoners boarded the stolen ship, Dr. Soo-young grew weaker. The escape had exhausted her remaining strength. Leave me here, she whispered to Na-young. I am slowing everyone down. Never, her sister replied firmly. We escaped together or not at all. With help from the other prisoners, they got Soo-young aboard the ship. Park Ji-hoon started the engines and lifted off from the facility just as more Vorthan forces arrived. As they flew away from Vorthak Prime, Taemin looked back at the research facility. Explosions were still lighting up the alien complex as Soo-young's sabotage continued to spread through their systems. We did it, Admiral Song said with satisfaction, but their escape was far from over. Vorthan ships were already launching from the planet's surface to chase them. The stolen transport was fast, but it was not built for combat. Multiple ships following us, Park Ji-hoon reported from the pilot seat, at least 6 Vorthan fighters. Can we outrun them? Taemin asked. Maybe, but not with Dr. Soo-young needing medical attention. We need to get her to a human medical facility as soon as possible. Dr. Huang was doing what she could for Soo-young, but her condition was critical. The young scientist was unconscious now, her breathing shallow and difficult. The data transmission worked, Na-young reported, checking the ship's communication systems. I am receiving confirmation signals from Human Military Command. Our research has reached them safely. What does that mean for the war? Asked Sergeant Hana. It means humanity finally has the tools to coordinate perfectly and defend our colonies effectively. The combined research should give us a decisive advantage. As if to prove her point, new signals appeared on their sensors. A fleet of human warships was approaching their position. Having received the emergency beacon Park Ji-hoon had activated. This is Admiral Chen aboard the UES Victory, came a voice over the communication system. We received your research data and your distress call. Hold your position. We are moving to intercept the Vorthan pursuit ships. The next few minutes were filled with the sounds of space combat, as human and Vorthan fleets engaged each other. But this time the human ships moved with perfect coordination, using Dr. Na-young's quantum communication system to act as one unified force. The Vorthans are retreating, Park Ji-hoon announced with amazement. I have never seen them withdraw from a fight before. They cannot predict our movements anymore, Admiral Song observed. The sisters' research has changed everything. A medical ship docked with their stolen transport, and human doctors immediately began treating Dr. Soo-young. Her condition was serious, but the doctors were hopeful they could save her life. 3 days later, aboard the medical ship heading back to human space, Dr. Soo-young finally opened her eyes. Her sister Na-young was sitting beside her bed holding her hand. Did we make it? Soo-young asked weakly. We made it, Na-young replied with tears of joy. And our research is already helping human forces win battles across the galaxy. Commander Taemin visited them both later that day. He had been promoted to admiral and was being assigned to lead the new coordinated fleet operations that their research had made possible. I wanted to thank both of you, he told the sisters. Your courage and sacrifice have given humanity hope again. We should thank you, Na-young replied. When you refused to choose between us, you showed the Vorthans something they could never understand. That humans value every individual life. And that sometimes the best choice is to reject the choices others try to force on you, Soo-young added, her voice getting stronger. 6 months later, the war against the Vorthans had turned completely around. Human forces, now able to communicate instantly across any distance and protect their colonies with advanced shield technology, were pushing the aliens back on every front. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as another Vorthan fleet retreated rather than face the perfectly coordinated human attack. The aliens had never learned to understand human decision-making, and now that weakness was costing them the war. Dr. Kim Na-young had established a new research institute focused on developing defensive technologies. She named it the Soo-young Institute for Protective Sciences, honoring her sister's focus on saving lives rather than taking them. Dr. Kim Soo-young had recovered from her illness and was working on the next generation of shield technology. Her new designs could protect entire star systems from attack, making war itself less attractive to aggressive species. The escaped prisoners had all been honored as heroes. Many of them chose to continue serving in the military, using their knowledge of Vorthan psychology to help end the conflict peacefully. Research leader Vexthan and his fellow scientists never did understand what they had witnessed in that ceremonial chamber. Their report spoke of human irrationality and emotional decision-making as permanent weaknesses in human thinking. But they were wrong. What they saw as weakness was actually humanity's greatest strength, the willingness to choose heart over mind, to value individual lives over strategic advantage, and to find new options when faced with impossible choices. Admiral Taman often visited a memorial wall that listed all the humans who had died in Vorthan captivity. Dr. Suyung's name had almost been added to that wall, but human stubbornness and refusal to accept defeat had saved her life. Standing before the memorial, Taman reflected on the choice he had been forced to make. The Vorthans had expected him to choose between two brilliant scientists based on cold calculation of their strategic value. Instead, he had chosen to value both lives equally and reject the premise of their cruel experiment. That decision had created the chaos needed for escape, and had shown the aliens that humans could not be reduced to simple formulas. The war continued in some sectors, but it was winding down. The Vorthans were learning that fighting humans required understanding human nature, and human nature, as it turned out, was far more complex and unpredictable than any alien logic could comprehend. Years later, when peace treaties were finally signed, historians would mark the escape from the Vorthan research facility as the turning point in the war. Not because of the military technology that was recovered, but because of what it represented. It showed that humans would never accept that some choices were impossible. When faced with losing someone they cared about, humans would always find a third option, even if that option seemed to make no logical sense. In the end, that refusal to accept limitations became humanity's greatest victory in a universe full of logical, predictable species. Sometimes the most irrational choice was also the most human choice, and sometimes that made all the difference.